Hello, this is Chris with Phoenix Gaming. Today we're going to talk about Farflung Craftworlds. Funny story, I actually recorded this video once, got all the way through it, and then realized I forgot to hit the record button. So we're a little late getting this up. Apologize, we're doing this at the request of a couple of viewers. Obviously, homie over at Proxy Hammer had said something, and another viewer, Nick the Noodle, had mentioned it. Just seeing my take on the Farflung Craftworlds. Before we dig into it, let's go over some announcements. I am, like I said, going to be doing a giveaway soon. I have to come up with terms of service. YouTube demands that I have those detailed and easily accessible. Words are going to be hard today, I think, and that's okay. It just means it's a learning process for me. I have to do the research, find out what all I need. So it'll be a little bit, but we are going to be doing a giveaway. Another thing is, hey, subscribe. It's a great way to support the channel. It's free, it's easy. And then make sure you're dropping comments if there's anything specific you'd like to see me cover or like me to talk about. If you've got some video recommendations, if you've got game recommendations, you want to see me stream a specific game or a specific matchup, let me know. I do remember your request over at Proxy Hammer. You did say something about getting a Yanari list on the table. That will be happening. I've just been playing so much with the Drukari to prep for this tournament season that I haven't had a chance to dig into it again. New games are coming soon to the channel. We're going to open up a second day for streaming here. I don't have a hard date on that, like I said before. I did want to give a shout out again, militarygamingcommand.org. It's a nonprofit organization that I am working with. I am not getting paid by them to promote them. I am the captain of their Warhammer 40k team. I will be building a team of veterans. We will be going to events with the MGC banner, in addition to the events that I'll be doing with the Phoenix Gaming banner. And we will be trying to kind of do some community outreach there. Really cool organization, works with veterans and uses video games, and now I'll be helping to expand that into the tabletop realm. So check it out. It's really cool. Thanks again. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about Farflung Craftworlds. What I think are some of the best combos, and again, it may vary because of different play styles and such. And we'll touch on some list concepts that could support them. I'm not going to really hash out a whole list, but what I will do is I will tell you conceptually what you could do with it and how it could work. Farflung Craftworlds are just like the custom chapters for Space Marines and all the other factions that get them, except for orcs. Oh gosh, everybody gets them but them. It's kind of weird. I think actually Chaos Space Marines don't have them either, but not that I'm a little salty about it. The custom craft worlds, you get to pick any two of the custom traits except for Hail of Doom, but that's because it got nerfed. And, it getting nerfed makes it significantly weaker for a lot of reasons. We're not going to touch on it besides this. Anybody that plays craft worlds already knows what it is and how it works, so we can just breeze on through it. Okay, Vengeful and Savage Blades. Obviously, this is going to be a melee-centric list, and it'll turn defenders and rangers into -1 AP on the charge. Storm Guardians go to -2 because of Savage Blades. Vengeful gives you 6's explode in the fight phase. So you can have 10 Storm Guardians throwing 20 dice. They hit on 3, 6's explode. You have strats to reroll 1s if you're not within range of an objective marker. -2 AP on the charge. So a list like this can actually support mass Storm Guardian spam, and it can put out a lot of damage, right? And you can do a lot of layering with them. I'll touch on this a little bit later, but, Guide Doom, Empower, all of those, I think it's Empower. Whatever it is, it's the one that gives you +1 to wound rolls. These are all things that you can do that can make these very silly. And it's not limited to Storm Guardians. It's just Storm Guardians happen to be the cheapest unit, really, that you can layer it on. Striking Scorpions would get double exploding 6's in melee with -2 AP on chainswords. Banshees get pretty wild with -5 and 6's explode. And you can replace either one of these with Children of Cain. I would probably replace Savage Blades. The extra AP is less important unless there's some reason you need it. Vengeful getting 6's explode means you've got extra chances for wounds of 6, and Children of Cain gives you extra damage on wounds of 6. Man, that gets silly. And actually, so my brother just did very well at a tournament with this combo. I won't get into his list in detail, but I will tell you it was pretty cool to see him do well. Another one would be Student of Vaul and or Expert Craft and Masters of Concealment. Students of Vaul is a really good one. If it's damage one attack against a vehicle, you get to add one to armor saves, and then you can couple that with Expert Crafters or Masters of Concealment. Expert Crafters. Each time a unit with this ability is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll one wound roll when resolving the unit's attacks. And Masters of Concealment is if you're more than 12 inches away, you get light cover, right? So getting any kind of free reroll on anything that's not core is going to just inherently make it better. And then Masters of Concealment just kind of increases your durability as you close that distance. If you were going to spam Warwalkers, which I'm not a big fan of spamming, right? But if I were going to build a list around this, I'd probably bring 9 more walkers, just slam them on my opponent's front line, and then have my redeploy strat in my pocket, and then just be able to do whatever. Like if I go first, I'm just going to be able to concentrate fire and just do a lot of damage. And if I don't go first, I can pull them off the table and even put them into reserve. I'd also consider maybe Savage Blades because they do get a few attacks. They are hitting on threes. They will get AP. That extra AP will make a difference. But at the same time, there's no bad way to do this with any of these, right? When you do this, right? When you bring Students of Vol, Plasma becomes neg 2 if it's not supercharged instead of neg 3. So these do make a difference. Chain swords, you see a lot of Marines chain swords go to 0 AP effectively. So these are good ways to kind of, there's a lot of neg 1 damage in the game, and these are ways to kind of mitigate that. Orc Choppas, all the witches, their base weapons. Like I said, Expert Crafters is pretty good. You get a free reroll. Again, I'd probably consider an aggressive army filled with Warwalkers that redeploy, and then having that reroll, right? So if you've got a Bright Lance, you can reroll your, I believe it was your wound roll. You've got that free reroll to help make them more efficient. Hornets would also be very good if they've got a +1 to save. They're already -1 to hit against shooting, and then the free reroll makes their Bright Lance a lot better, right? Because you're less reliant on making sure you've got that Strands of Fate die to make it auto wound. You can use it to auto hit. You can CP reroll your hit. You get that free wound reroll though, and then you're less reliant on making sure you've got these dice to guarantee things because you can reroll. So if you've got 3 Hornets, you're gonna have 3 Bright Lances the way I run them, and so I would be using that reroll to make sure that Bright Lance just goes through. If I was going to do Masters of Concealment, I'd probably be looking at a lot more Fire Prisms and Hornets rather than Warwalkers. You want that long range. You want things that can stay out of 12 inches as much as possible so that you can effectively have a 2-up save against shooting. And then if it's 1 damage, you could theoretically have a 1-up save. So these are just things that I would probably do. These are very good combos. And I'm sure other people have seen these. I'm not the first person, and this doesn't mean they're going to be the best. I'm just saying like these are the weird cool curveballs you could throw if you go to a tournament and people aren't going to expect it, and if you know your list and you know the game, you're going to do very well. I think Warding Runes is a very underrated ability. You get an army-wide 6-up invulnerable save, and you get a 5-up Feel No Pain against mortals. The fact that a 5-up Feel No Pain against mortals is a good trait just speaks to where the game is at right now, and that's a whole separate conversation. But I will say, if I get the invuln and I only got the invuln, I'd still take it, right? Because then you could bring a lot of things that don't have inherent invulns. You could bring defenders, they at least have a 6-up invulnerable save. You could bring Wraithblades with swords. They'd have an invulnerable save. It's not the 4-up you'd get with the shield, but it just opens the door to mitigate some of the feel bads when people are like, here's my neg 5 attack. Haha. Well, at least I still get a save. So the only time you have to really worry about the feel bads is when you hit a hammerhead or a hecaton, which is the Votan hammerhead, right? And it's more like a land raider. I would consider coupling it with Grim if I'm spamming large numbers of infantry. Masters of Concealment could give you a little bit more resiliency, giving you that cover at over 12 inches. So if you've got a 4-up base save for your defenders, they go to 3-up outside of 12 inches, and they have a 6-up invuln. And that's pretty solid. Um, there's a few armies out there that are just going to ignore your light cover, but outside of those armies, it's going to feel pretty good. Going from a 4-up save to a 3-up save against bolt guns when you're playing against Marines is going to feel good. Staying at a 4-up save against bolt pistols, the heavy ones, going to feel pretty good. There are some underrated traits, right? And what I mean by this is I've not heard much people talk on them, and I think that's not necessarily, that doesn't mean that they're bad, and it doesn't mean that people don't know about them. It just means that in my play group, these aren't discussed a whole lot. So maybe if you're a Craftworlds player, you're like, man, bro, you're an idiot. These are great. And that's fine. I am an idiot, and these are great. So we can all be right. So I think Children of the Open Skies is exceptionally good. You get an extra inch of movement for non-fly and an extra 2 inches if it has the fly keyword. This means if you give Hornets star engines, they'll get 23 inches of movement, and that is massive. Okay. Um, if you hide them well, they are going to have an almost board-wide threat range with that type of movement because they fly. Banshees will move base 9, and then the other part of Children of the Open Skies that I forgot to put on the slide is that when you roll an advance roll, it's a minimum of 3. So 1s and 2s count as 3s. So that means Banshees are going to move a minimum of 12 inches and still be able to charge. That's amazing. That is jump pack infantry movement on Howling Banshees, right? So that's super good. Your Shining Spears also move 18. So there's a lot of utility here, right? And extra movement is very good. If you look at the top armies, a lot of the top armies competitively either have a very mobile army or they're able to just spam buckets of mortal wounds. But slow armies aren't performing very well right now. There's always exceptions to that, but for the most part, those are the top armies. Those are the ones that are doing the best. I think Superior Shurikens is pretty good, even without Hail of Doom, right? Because 3 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but when you can make your Dire Avengers have a 21-inch range, that doesn't sound like a big threat range, but it is, right? It means, so again, using heavy bolt pistols, if you're going against assault intercessors, it now means you're more able to move up and shoot the assault intercessors and then battle focus out of range and not have to worry about getting as many in range, right? It lets you kind of kite and skirt a little bit better. Your pistols go to 15-inch range, which gives Storm Guardians and Banshees a little bit more effective shooting. Like I said, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you build around it and build with it, it's going to be pretty solid. Like I said, we're going to talk about Vengeful and Children of Cain. And this is just kind of a breakdown or a general overview of what my brother brought to this tournament. And he outperformed me. I shit the bed. I did very poorly at this tournament, but I am making it up this weekend and over the course of a very competitive ITC ranked league. My first league game's tomorrow, and then I've got a tournament on Saturday, and I fully intend on making up for how poorly I played at the last tournament. But he did great, and I wanted to big shout out to my brother Richard. He's not historically done well at tournaments, and he went 2-1 and did very well. So congratulations to him. I'm very proud of him, and it's awesome. It's weird to be able to be like, yeah, I'm proud of my older brother because I am the little brother here, right? Uh, but he did bring the Avatar, and the Avatar does get a Craft World trait, and this is very important for a couple reasons. He's got that 12-inch aura of ignore combat attrition mods, and my brother did bring quite a few units of Storm Guardians, right? And Vengeful gives you 6s explode, so all his hit rolls in the fight phase, he gets those 6s pop. Children of Cain does give him bonus damage in the fight phase, but he doesn't necessarily need it. He did have a Farseer with Guide and Doom and a Warlock with Empower and Innervate, so it is Empower. I thought it was. And then he had 2 units of Storm Guardians and some Rangers. I wrote this before the tournament. I promise you I did. Uh, and his list actually followed this almost to a T. And he and I did not discuss it. So it's really cool to see. Um, Support it with fire prisms and warp spiders. So he didn't use fire prisms. He instead used wave serpents, which is fine. Those are amazing. Some of the best dedicated transports in the game. He did have a unit of warp spiders, and he did bring them at my suggestion because he was like, I don't know about warp spiders, and I'm like, bro, they're bonkers. Like if you get them shooting and you can get them guide and doomed, right? Like you can kind of layer that. Warp spiders are bonkers. I played against a dude who ran Death Guard, and he was running the Poxwalker spam. I mean, he had hordes of Poxwalkers, and the warp spiders alone were picking up almost a whole unit of Poxwalkers every shooting phase. So they are worth their points, right? Bring Banshees, which he did. He brought a unit of Banshees. And again, I think Guardians are underrated, and he brought units of Guardians. And he did guide, doom, and empower them. And he was just like wrecking shop with his little 9-point troops. And it was awesome, man. And I think part of the reason it worked so well is because people didn't expect his troops to perform that well. So they were so worried about avoiding the Banshees, and they were so worried about avoiding the warp spiders that when his troops got into combat and he was just like, I'm re-rolling all the dice and my sixes explode, because they get like 2 attacks each. They don't sound scary. And then once you start layering all the rules that they had, it was just like, yeah, I get 20 attacks, but here's my 40 hits. And then here's my 40 wounds, and half of them are 2 damage because I could fish for sixes on the re-rolls. Like, it made people kind of go, oh my. So again, is it going to go and win a GT? Not at all, But we're going to CAG Bash, which is a GT. We're doing that in a month, so maybe it will. We're going to go and we're going to see. But if he comes back with a winning record from CAG Bash, he's going to be happy. And I can be like, ha, I told you this is actually pretty good. So, um, but yeah, this is just one of the concepts I had talked about. Like I said, I know it's a lot to invest in the troop squads. There's some math on the table. I'm not going to break it down. Math on the table. There is some math on the screen. I'm not going to break it down. I'll let you guys kind of read through it while you listen to my melodious voice. You can pause it. And as always, Eldar has a way to layer a lot of things. And so, I think Storm Guardians are underrated, and I think Defenders are underrated. I know I talked to again a couple of viewers like Nick and Proxy Hammer, and those guys were just like, "Hey, man, I think the biggest complaint is they don't really have a role because anything they can do, there's just things that can do it better." And I would contend that that's true for all troops, right? I can bring witches, but I could just bring incubi, you know. So it's one of those where I get the point, but let's not poo-poo these guys because they're still very good for their points. That's going to wrap us up. I want to give a shout out to my Immortals, my $20 patrons. You guys are awesome. Because of you, I've been able to build my terrain. I'm actually the tournament I'm going to play in this week. I'm taking 6 tables worth of terrain to help that TO. And we're actually building a network of TOs, but I'll get into that later. 6 tables worth of terrain because of these fine gentlemen right here, right? Like I can get this terrain and I can bring it to other events and I can help support other tournament organizers so that they can run good events. And man, like you guys are awesome. So all the patrons that I get, this is where the money goes. It goes to supporting the community. Thank you. It doesn't go into my pocket. I am a disabled veteran. I do collect disability from the VA, so I'm not doing this so much for a paycheck as much as I am. I just love this game, and this just gives me the money I need to help support tournaments and events. So again, big thank you. You guys are amazing. As always, thanks for watching. Links are here and in the description. The Military Gaming Command link will be also in the description. Check it out. It's a great community. It's a great organization. And if you're a veteran like myself, it is worth checking out. You guys have a great day.